In this tip of the day, let's take a look at fixturing that's associated with multi-axis machining. Now, when I talk about fixturing, I'm talking about things like indexers, rotary tables, trunnions, and things like that. Let's keep it simple and let's start with 4-axis. Now in this example, you can see we have the actual housing of the rotary table. We have the plate or table that's going to rotate, and then we have the part. But also notice that everything has its own layer. Now the naming convention is extremely important. Now for the name of the part layer, you can name that anything that you'd like. But in regards to the actual fixturing for the 4-axis, that's important. Everything on layer 3 is going to be stationary. You can think of this as 3-axis. So if I turn this on and off, everything on layer 3, that's going to remain stationary during the preview. Everything on layer 4 is going to actually rotate around the 4th axis within preview. Very, very important. Now if I turn the housing layer off, you can see we have our plate or table that's going to index. How you have this located is also extremely important. Now typically for 4-axis, you're going to be indexing around the x-axis or the y-axis. In this example, we're rotating around the x-axis. So it's extremely important that the geometry for your fixturing is centered around the x-axis. And you can see the x-axis here passes right through the center of the table there. Okay, so just a quick refresher. Everything on layer 3, that's going to remain stationary during the toolpath preview. Everything on layer 4, that's going to rotate around the 4th axis during preview. And to keep things simple, just think of 3 as 3-axis and 4 as 4-axis. And then of course everything you have on your other layers, for example I have a layer here called part, that's also going to rotate around the 4th axis. Alright, let's take a look at this now within preview. I'm going to come up here to our toolpath group, right hand mouse click, and we're going to select our preview toolpaths. There we go. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And I'm going to restart this so you can see it from the beginning, but you'll notice that everything on layer 3 is stationary. Everything on layer 4, that's considering your fixturing, is rotating around the 4th axis. And of course your other layer where you have your parts located are also going to index. So it's very, very easy to set up within OneCNC. Alright, now let's take this a step further. Let's take a look now at 5-axis. Now this works really exactly the same way. With 5-axis, for example in this trunnion, again we have layers and the naming convention is very important. So we have layer 3, think of that as your 3rd axis. Everything on layer 3 is not going to rotate during your toolpath preview. Everything on layer 4, that's your 4th axis. That's going to rotate around the 4th axis during preview. Everything on layer 5, in this example for a trunnion, that's our table or plate, that's going to rotate around the 5th axis. And then of course any other layers that you have, and in this example I have a layer called part, that's also going to rotate around the axis. Now just like before, the location of the geometry for your fixturing is very important. For example, here's our 4th axis, and here's the actual carriage that's going to be rotating around the 4th axis. This is rotating around the x-axis, so it has to be positioned properly. And you can see that the x-axis moves right through the point of rotation for this carriage. Okay, so that's very, very important. Same thing for the 5th axis. Let's turn that table or plate on. That's going to be rotating around the z-axis, and you can see that it's centered correctly as well. Okay, so the positioning of your fixturing is extremely important. And the layers that you have your fixture geometry on is also very important. But it's very, very easy to set up. Just remember 3 for 3-axis, 4 for 4-axis, 5 for 5-axis, and your fixturing needs to be positioned correctly. Okay, let's take a look at this within preview. We're going to right hand mouse click. Let's go to preview toolpaths. Going to zoom out just a little bit. And you can see that OneCNC takes care of all the hard work of indexing the carriage, the plate, and the part. Very, very nice. Alright, that's it for this tip of the day. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.